If you will, stand with me, please. I'm going to call a meeting to order, and I'm going to ask Jerry Stone, if he will, to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we're thankful for all of your blessings that you bestowed upon us. We pray, Lord, tonight you be with us as we make decisions for this institution of higher learning, that you will guide us in all of the decisions that we have to make. Lord, we're thankful. I want to give you credit for all good things. These things we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jerry. All right, any public comments? If not, we'll move to item number 3. Consider annual audit report presented by Kelvin Cashin of Globe Morgan Petty accounting firm.
Thank you, Board. You've had a while to read this one, I believe. Better late than never, so to speak. So, anyway, appreciate you allowing me to be here tonight. Going to go over this real briefly and then just kind of open it up for questions tonight from the board. First and foremost, before I jump into anything, I want to thank David, Stephanie, and all their staff for the great help that they allowed to give us this year, and I appreciate them so much. You got a great group here, and I know you're all aware of that, and we thank them so much. Everybody from financial aid, everyone, everybody at the foundation, they do a great job helping us out with audit. Before I get into everything, I know you sent several things in your packet, a copy of the report. There's another statement I'm going to look at and address with you tonight. We spent quite a bit of time going over this. It's been a while now. Back in January, I can't remember the day. I came over that day, and since that time with Stephanie and David, Dr. King going through this at length, and so we had a good meeting and a good time to go through everything. One of the things I do want to address, you got a letter here that's a 3-page letter. It should be part of your packet. I believe I see some of you had it. This is our formal communication letter that we're required to issue to those charged with governance. And I don't go over it every year with you, but I think it's important to go over that just to make you aware of it. It basically relates to several things related to your audit. Number one, it talks about our responsibility related to the audit. It does make mention of some of the findings we have, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit with our single audit compliance. Talks about our compliance with all ethical standards, and especially related to independence, which we have to be independent in order to perform the audit for the college. It does talk about significant difficulties that we encountered, which there were none, have not ever been. It talks about corrected misstatements. Any audit adjustments that we present are approved by your staff, and everything has been done on your side so that your books agree with the audited statements that you were given. Just want to make you aware of that. Any questions on that letter? That's kind of a standard thing. But again, I want you to make you aware of that because it's important that you're able to know and understand that as well. The report itself, really the main thing I want to focus on is the opinion, first and foremost. If you look at the opinion on page 3 through 5. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention, if you went back and compared with last year, it's going to look different. The standards board's always coming up with different things they can do to change things. This is one of the things I'm in favor of. Some of the things they do, I just have to comply with, and I tell clients all the time, don't shoot the messenger. This is one of the things I'm in favor of. They changed the opinion, and basically what they did is they just kind of moved things around. But what they did, if you go back and look at last year's report, you'll notice that the opinion on the financial statements is the very last paragraph. Well, they moved it to the very first paragraph, which I think is highly important because in all essence, that is why we are hired, is to render the opinion on the financial statements of the college. And this is an unmodified, clean opinion. Just like the opinions we've rendered in years past, it's the cleanest opinion we can render on behalf of PVCC. But just want to make you aware of that. If you look at page 4, there are some additional bullet points. Give you a minute to get there. It's part of the opinion now that you were not seeing last year. So if you go to page 4, you'll see there's several little things that are done in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and government auditing standards, which we have to comply with as well. It basically just states that we exercise professional judgment, maintain professional skepticism, we identify and assess risks, which we've always done. Obtain an understanding of internal control, basically allowing us to perform our audit procedure. We don't render an opinion on internal control, but we use that in order to help us assess risk and perform the audit. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies and reasonableness of significant estimates, which again is something we've always done. And then we also make a conclusion based on our assessment of whether there is substantial doubt about the college's ability to continue as a going concern. Now, again, that's something we always look at, we always address. But they basically made us come in here now and kind of present these bullet points as part of the opinion. So that is something you're going to see that is new. We'll get back into the other reports for the single audit here in a minute. I did want to just show you one thing. You received a separate one-page handout that I think is very relevant. And then you also, this kind of goes along the line with the letter that I've provided you. It's kind of a summary of everything. And I think it's important because as we looked at the comparisons between 22 and 21, there were some things that kind of looked distorted a little bit. So we pulled in, I gave you a 3-year, basically a 3-year income statement. Okay? This 3-year income statement is very relevant because, again, it shows some of the things that happened along the 3 years. As we looked at it, you'll remember going back to 2020, fiscal year ending 8/31/2020 was the first year you were in your new system. Right? So drastic report, if you remember that year, drastic reporting changes from 19 to 20. So then we had a comparison in 21, which was your second year, and then of course 22 was your third year. So as we looked at it, we kind of realized that there was probably some additional funding that hit in 2020 that probably should have been some cost that probably should have been deferred into 21. Because if you look at some things there, especially when you look at your federal revenues, you'll see there, if you go down at the bottom under non-operating revenues expenses, you'll see the non-operating federal revenues, which is basically the aid that comes in to pay tuition and fees. Was $12.8 million in 20, it went to 4.9 in 21, and then it back up to 8.1 in 22. So there, if you look at it across the board, the average comes out to be about over $8 million. So there was probably some excess there that should have been deferred into 21. I think 22 is a real good picture as far as how that goes, and we should have a very true picture going forward when we compare to 23. Of course, a lot of this, you know, we've had this discussion. You did receive a lot of additional funding related to the ARPA money. A lot of that money that came in, the HER funds that came in. You did have in 22, of course, you're fully aware of this. You realize a $2 million increase in property taxes because of the increased valuation. That's something you're going to continue to see moving forward. Especially in the Kaufman County, Terrell area, that their property values are going to continue to climb. So again, I just wanted to point that out as I presented that. Another thing too, what that does is with the additional funding, you'll remember you have to show your tuition and fees at a net number. Okay, because you have to net that funding against it, and then it also nets against your scholarships as well. That's why your tuition and fee revenues kind of look like they're jumping around. But again, you had quite a bit more revenues that came in 20, less than 21, and then in 22, we're kind of back into a more normal cycle. Okay, so I just want to bring that to your attention. Any questions as you look at that information? Okay. All right. Let's talk about your compliance part. In the letter, I did state there were two findings that we came about when we tested your financial aid. Let's go back real quick to the back part of the report, starting on page 60. Now, on page 60, you'll see what they call the safety schedule, schedule of expenditure of the federal award. And you can see, the majority of your funds that came in were, of course, financial aid, which is predominantly Pell. And then, of course, your COVID emergency money, which is predominantly PERF monies. They're allocated between your students and your institution. Okay. And those were the two things that we tested. We were required to test this year in relation to compliance under its major programs. Now, we did, if you look at the report on page 64 and 65, of course, you have two compliance reports. One is your report on internal control over financial reporting and other matters. That's really looking at your financial structure as a whole, the controls related to that. We had no findings. We had nothing to say there. Everything was in good order. The findings relate to the report starting on page 66, which is, of course, your direct compliance over your major program. And we did have two findings. And we'll look at those here in a minute. I'm not going to get into detail of them, but they are, I can tell you this, these were new. These were not repeats from the prior year, which that's a good thing. So basically that means, hey, we're taking care and correcting the things we had the year before. We had three findings in the previous year in 21. They were all corrected. And we had two new ones that came up this year. If you look at, starting on page 75, that is where you see the corrective action plan. So basically what that does is it, to some degree, basically just reiterates the finding itself. Both findings were considered to be significant deficiencies. Now, we've had this discussion before. A significant deficiency is the first level that you address with a finding. Okay, then you go into what's called material weakness in controls. Okay, we have not had a material weakness in controls here in the last 2 years. Everything we have had in findings has just been a significant deficiency. Now, the reason some of you are asking, well, what's the difference? Okay, a significant deficiency is something that if you have and you don't address, deal with, it can lead to a material weakness in control. Material weakness can be addressed as something that would cause a material mistake in your financials. Something that is so significant it could lead to possible fraud or other things that would come about. It's not just a quantitative analysis, but a qualitative analysis. Well, on our part, that's where auditor judgment comes in. But we believe, because of the level of the findings that were there, and again, a lot of the controls that you do have in place, we believe these were just going to be significant deficiencies, and that's how they're reported. And so the corrective action plan does address those. It states what the deficiencies are. And you have the action that your college has presented. If you see on page 77, David has signed it, Philip has signed it, Vice President of Student Services, and Tanya has signed it as Director of Financial Planning. So again, I think the corrective actions there in place are great. I think they're being addressed as, probably have been addressed now. Okay, they're probably taken care of. So anyway, that's all I wanted to cover with you tonight. I know it's brief, but again, we've had quite a bit of time to look at it. So I just really want to open it up to any questions you might have. Let's see. Yes, sir.
With the installation of college,
Yes.
we're not checkpoints. We've heard quite a bit about it not letting you make mistakes. So
There's always human error. And so that's, I think, part of it. I think you're getting much better at learning this system and knowing this system. There are still some glitches that come along in the way, and just understanding when it gives you reports or gives you information, sometimes you've got to be able to understand what is that information you're getting to be able to decipher whether it's good, it's correct, or if there is some glitch in there that creates a possible finding. But I think again, I mean, let's go back to where it came from. You know, y'all remember where we started. You come a very, very long way. Your financial aid department is still working through a lot of the things, learning the system, adjusting. Again, as things continue to adjust in this environment. So, but I believe they're doing a great job, and I think Holly does a wonderful job in helping with that and taking care of those things. But yes, there is going to be human error. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Kevin. Anybody have any other questions about? Or if not, again, thank you, Kevin,
Thank
for
you
the
very
good
much.
report.
Thank you, Kevin.
That's-
I know the answer, but that's great. Perhaps
All right, well,
they do these good things, you know,
Yes.
they need to hear it as well, but just broadly speaking, looking back 1, 2, 3 years, how did you see us overall?
Overall, night and day.
Yeah.
If we go back to year one, you know, you remember what happened. I believe David probably helped me a little bit. I think there were 13 total findings and they were split between significant deficiencies, material weaknesses. You know, to basically the next year, I think we were down to maybe 6. Last year, I think there were 3. This year there were 2. Now, the key thing is, again, guys, there's no repeats. That's a big deal. They're correcting the problems that are the findings we came up with the year before. They're taking act. When they write that corrective action down, the first thing we do next year when we come in is we say, okay, did you do what you said you were going to do? That's a big deal because they commit to taking the corrective action to fix it, and they've done that. Things are going to slip through the crack. You're going to have, you know, findings pop up from time to time. You know, the goal would be to get to where, hey, I stand before you and say, guess what, guys? There were none. And we're getting there. We're getting close. But if you ask me where we come from, I'm going to tell you, it's not. It's not. You got a great group. I mean, it's been great that, you know, Stephanie stepped in. Courtney's back on staff now. That's even more help with everything. She has a good feel across the board for everything. Your financial aid group's done a great job.
Are we adequately staffed?
I don't know if I can answer that question. Okay. To be honest with you, because I'm not here on a day-to-day basis. I know it, I'll be honest with you, probably at certain times of the year or certain periods of the year, you're probably understaffed. Now, from a 12-month cycle, I can't answer that for you. Okay. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, we'll move to the president's report.
I think we need to approve that.
Uh,
We need to approve.
Oh, okay. We need to approve Kevin's report. Down here, Terry makes motion, Dr. Clayton seconds motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, item number 4 is president's report.
We have some information on the spring enrollment, and it's a little bit more accurate than it has been in the past because we're a little bit later getting it to you, but I'm gonna let Dr. Spizzera present it. This is the information that we provided for you on the spring enrollment. Dr. Spizzera, you wanna?
Thank you. So one thing new that I did this time is I wanted us to start tracking we talked a lot about our TDCJ in-service program and the additional students that we're bringing in on the employee side. So I wanted to be able to track that. So you see the asterisks on the online and under TDCJ. And if you look below, it tells you that of the 788 students in TDCJ, 404 of those are the in-service students. So that's the employees that the additional programs that we had began. And then of the online, 116 of those are in the leadership programs, et cetera. So if you take out the additional 520 students from TDCJ, our enrollment is sitting at 5,315. With that, we're at 5,835. Because the additional 520, we don't receive tuition and fees for. So I wanted to make sure that we looked at it in both lots, especially as we continue to use this as a benchmark to move forward with. We're 1.4% up in enrollment, not including the TDCJ. including TDCJ, we're sitting at 11.1% up in enrollment. We are still registering for 8-week 2. We'll do that until right before we go out for spring break. So we have roughly a month left to do that. So we'll see enrollment continue to go up a little bit. Any questions on our enrollment report? Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. We're getting back, as you can see where we were in spring of 2020. That was before COVID. This the year of COVID hit. So at that time we were 60, almost 63. So we're getting back. It's a slow process, climbing our way through, but to have an increase in the spring semester over the previous spring is a positive thing. The only other thing I wanted to mention was the next board meeting. I think we want to probably talk about that a little bit later on. It's initially scheduled for the 4th week in February, which is the 27th. But again, we may want to talk about changing that as we, and I'll mention that to you a little bit later on. And we can talk about what you want to do about that. Other than that, hopefully you're reading my updates that I'm sending every Monday and giving you a lot of information. I think everything's going very well. Athletic programs, all the student activities going on. It's just a lot of things going on at the college. I think things are looking good and things are looking very positive. And so we keep moving forward. Unless anybody has any questions, that's all my report. Okay.
All right. We don't have to approve the president's report, do we?
No.
Okay. So item number 5, consider the minutes of November the 28th board meeting. Do I hear somebody want to approve the minutes of the board? Steve makes a motion and Jerry Stone seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 6, consider the business financial and investment report for October and November of 2022. David?
Yes, sir. I'm going to focus on November mainly and kind of follow up on one of the things Kevin said. I want to point out the very first line, tuition and fees. You'll see there that in November it appears that it's a 10.5% increase. Chris and I got together as kind of follow up on what's behind the numbers. What we had is it's not really that high, but what happened in this November, our dual credit folks got after it. We got all those students enrolled, which didn't happen last year. So when you look at it in November, it looks rather high. But as I went ahead and looked a couple of months ahead, as of December, it's 4%. I'm talking about for the year now. I'm not just on the spring. As of January, it's 2.1%. And I just want to point that out to you guys is, again, as Kevin said, sometimes you got to look behind the numbers to make sure you know why when you're comparing years. Sometimes timing is everything. And so 2.1 is as of January, I guess as of today, is kind of where we were at. Does that anybody have any questions about that? We'll be sure. I'm
not sure I fully understand that.
Well, because I'm comparing November to November, and this November, there were many more dual credit students registered than last year. They didn't get it done until I guess what, January?
We were pushing January 17th, 18th. What?
Sure.
Well, why didn't we have it done last year?
We had a fairly new staff last year that was still learning the process, and they were trying to get everything in. So they had everything in by the beginning of the semester. But this year going into it, she's fully staffed out with additional people to help her. So they were able to get everything from the high school in. And I mean, basically the minute we opened registration, they were just knocking them out.
So would this suggest that that's the anomaly because we did it differently? We got it done when it occurred rather than it being.
It's in a different month.
Okay,
Yeah.
but if we looked at it across the spectrum of the year, given that we're high now, it should flatten back out and normalize.
Well, that was what I was mentioning is in
Yeah.
December it's 4,
Okay.
in January it's 2.1.
I thought that's what you were saying,
Yes, sir.
but one, I didn't understand why would it be any different. Last year kind of But not like this year, you know, so.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'd say still a decrease. Yeah,
It's
Still an increase this year over last year.
but like
And
this-
also, I didn't mention it, but we're up in workforce programs, and those courses have, most of them have labs as well, which explains why there's a little bit of a difference between the enrollment percentage versus the tuition and fee percentage.
Just real quickly, again, housing, food service, and bookstore are all still up. As y'all recall, we raised the housing rates anywhere from 5 to 9%. Depending on the dorm, the increase in food service was 9%. The bookstores is continuing to increase, experience increase in sales. Correspondingly, bookstore on expenses, their goods purchased for resale, that by and in your services, again, tying that together, you know, as y'all recall, we raised the student side 9% on revenue. Aramark got an 8.5% increase on the expense side, and again, you'll see that down below. Overall, revenue over expense 4.393, prior year 4.395. Even though the differences in the year, we're still running pretty close to where we have been this time of year. Any questions on that? Next page is cash. We've got 22,665 million in capital reserve. Excuse me, 22,693 as of November. 29 million total. Next page on your investment report. And I did fail to point out our investment revenues up. Gentlemen, as I pull down the CDs, we did make more money. Rates are still going up, not quite as fast. This looks a little weird because you see the CDs, since we did pull them down, you see beginning balances at the end of the month and ending balances in different CDs because we yanked them all down all in the same month. But our investment income's up quite a bit. But I believe this was the month that we pulled all those down. On the cap reserve activity, this is obviously Jennifer's done a good job reflecting the projects we've got going. Northwest Dorm, campus parking lot. And again, you see the 22,693 reconciled there. And while I'm thinking about it, since Kevin was here in February, I went ahead and transferred, I believe it was an additional 6.1 million that was left over from the prior year. I have moved that into cap reserve. That'll be reflected on your February statement. As y'all recall, I try to wait till the audit is presented before I do that. And I think with what we transferred during the year for cap reserve, it was over 8 million in total. So,
David, let me add, does that mean we have about $30 million?
I haven't looked at February yet. I think it's going to be 29 or 30, be close to it. As of November, I haven't looked at what expenses will come out. We've got some other projects. The last two pages, I'll let y'all look at both of them. We've got the over 25,000 for October. If anybody has any questions.
Question about the Northwest Dorm. What is that? I mean, how far in are we right now, and what is it expected to close out? Now?
We've been finished with it since August.
But as far as the dollar amount,
I don't have that information. David, do you have that
No, I
information?
don't
We can provide it for you, but we actually came in under budget for it. I think we had budgeted close to $2 million initially, 2.2 maybe. We actually came in under budget and we've completed it all. It's complete.
didn't we have part of, because I know we wound up shifting directions kind of late today on that. Said, no, we don't need to just do some work on it. We need to do a much bigger, but didn't we have a certain amount budgeted for Northwest Hall? And where I'm going with that is that when you then shift it over to a larger project, are you absorbing the part that was budgeted or just hitting it all against capital?
Well, I think what we did just to avoid the confusion is, I think that was last year, we had some money in major repairs that what wasn't used rolled into cap reserve anyway.
Yeah.
And so I just took the whole thing out of cap reserve, knowing that's where the money's going. It just made it easier to track it. We'll get, as you can see, we're still getting, and I can't remember where we stood on the fire.
Well, he'll come up at the next meeting. I think we're still trying to get bids for the fire sprinkler system. And so, but that's a separate deal. That wasn't included in all of that.
Well, right, I understand, but from a project standpoint.
Yeah.
Before we would capitalize it, we need to
Yeah.
include that cost.
And I do realize that, you know, that globally, it comes out the same. And you're phrasing it all was the same. Very,
Yes,
but it does make some difference as to where the parking place happens. You know, whether it is capital reserve, whether it's, you know, across the operating budgets. So, wanted to be sure.
yeah, sometimes those things will happen like that. It's much easier if you don't split a project. Just from the standpoint that we're tracking the project accounting. And when it's totally done, I can get you all those costs and detail. Thanks. Sure. Let's see, did anybody have anything on October? The last page is going to be November, over 25,000. There was a lot of, mentions, a lot of CPI purchases. Mr. Gibson's not here, but, his staff, so a lot of times they do buy computers. They have a very stringent replacement program where we replace equipment. Obviously, they have to buy it and have it on hand. So a lot of those Optiflex things, such as that, replacing 5 years old. But I just kind of mirror what Kevin said. I think we're in a strong financial position. You know, we're closing in on, you know, $29-30 million in gap reserve. And if anybody's got any questions, I'll try to answer.
Anyone have any questions, David? If not, I hear a motion that will approve, Mike makes a motion, Ron seconds a motion to approve the business financial investment report for October and November of 2022. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 7, consider annual investment report.
Board, this is just, it's an annual thing the state auditor's office requires. I'm not 100% sure that the board has to approve it. We've been bringing it to you before I was here. This report, we submit the links to it to the state auditor's office and we place it on our website. It's one of our many lovely regulatory items that we do. This balances as of August 31st, 2022. Just ask the work through that since I've already put it on the website.
I'm curious.
Okay, Steve makes a motion, Jerry seconds the motion to approve the annual investment report. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 8, consider and discuss elevator replacement in the general studies building.
We had found out pretty late in the fall semester that we had an issue with the elevator. It's actually a platform lift. It's on the outside of the general studies building over in this direction. If you go over there, you can see it from the outside. It's about 14 years old. I remember when we put that in, I think it was when Dr. Voorhees first came here, 14 or 15 years old. We had it evaluated by several different people to come in and look at it. TK Elevator is our current elevator repair. We have a contract with them for all the elevators that we have on campus. We tried to get quotes from other places. We tried to get Otis, and I think there was another location somewhere that we tried to get in, and we were not able to get other quotes. Initially, we were told that it was gonna cost around $100,000. So, we asked for a good quote from TK Elevator. They gave us a quote. I think it's in your packet of information, maybe. The quote that they gave us was $79,842.86. And that is basically to pretty much complete the repair. It's pretty much a new elevator, is what they're telling us. And again, they are a member of the co-op, so we are comfortable, and we're comfortable with that price. We've asked around some other places, and even though we haven't been able to get another quote, I was hoping we'd get one today. We believe that price is a good price, and we also know that TK Elevator is a good reputable company because they're the ones who do all of our elevator work anyways. So we're asking the board to approve the purchase or purchase or repair and to allow TK Elevator to do that for us at that price of $79,842.86. We have funds in our facilities, and although this was kind of an uncertain thing that came up, we can pay this out of our current budget funds that we have. So that's okay. We're able to save some money for some other things in our facilities because of some good things that are happening for us with Economic Development Corporation in Terrell. And so this is a result. We'll have some funds available for this. So we did have two students. I checked on it initially, the very first class day. We had two students that needed to use that lift. And so we moved their classes downstairs so they didn't have to go upstairs. And so we're okay right now, but we do need to get this fixed, and we need to get it fixed pretty quickly. My understanding is according to TK Elevator, it's still going to take 6 weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. So but we're good for now. And like I say, we moved the classes downstairs, so it's not an issue of going up and down the elevator. But we would just ask for approval to move forward with TK Elevator at that price.
Okay,
Ask for
well,
questions.
wasn't that really, that when it was done, a answer for a building that was never designed to have an elevator,
It was OCR requirement.
Issues, things like that.
Yeah.
So it was a hybrid configuration, hence the fact that it's stuck on the outside.
It is, and it was. And it was an inexpensive way to be able to satisfy the Office of Civil Rights requirements that you have an elevator or you have a way up. Prior to that, we had a lift on the stairs, and they'd have to sit down on that lift on the stairs, and it would go. Half the time it was broke. I was in that office in that building for a long time, and so that did not meet OCR requirements. And so that's when I think it was Dr. Forhier, may have been Ron Ball, that had to come in and do something with that. I think it's probably we got our money's worth out of it. 14, 15 years.
Anyone else have any questions? If not, I hear a motion that we approve the purchase of the elevator.
Motion.
Dr. Charlie makes a motion. I hear a second. David seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 9, review and approve investment policy and strategy.
Board, this is under the Public Funds Investment Act. The investment policy has to come before the board once a year. I'm not recommending any changes. And so we would recommend approval. This, I'm just going to comply with the act itself.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the policy. Cash
What? We have a motion to approve that.
Oh, okay,
We need a
okay.
second.
David makes motion, Ron seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item number 10, discuss Department of Education financial aid audit review.
Board, I think you know that we've been working on this for a long time, and we have, of course, we've got David and that has been working with us on it to help us through this. Philip and David both have kind of had, it's been their responsibility to kind of work through on this. We've also been working with the audit committee some, met with them a couple of times. We are in the process of providing a follow-up feedback on the audit requirements that were given to us back in, I guess, September, October. We, at the approval of the audit committee, did go ahead and hire a consultant, which was a great thing, a great move. It's one of the best things that we could have done. Her name is Dr. Joellen Price. She is really good. She came highly recommended by the President's Association in the state of Texas, and we needed her to come in and kind of help us through this process and make sure that we were doing it right, and to make sure that we that we had done it wrong in the past. And basically, again, I want to also say something about Tanya Richardson Dean. She's been mentioned tonight already, our financial aid director. She's doing a great job. She's helping us through this process as well. But we're really depending upon that consultant, Dr. Price, to lead us through and give us the guidance that we need. We're getting close to being able to maybe provide some feedback to the DOE. We had hoped that we'd be able to get this done in February. If we don't get it done in February, then we'll ask for another 3 months extension. And I think we'll get it. They've already told us that we could do that, probably do that. So we're still working on it. So we're not quite sure exactly where we are. Just to give you just a bird's eye view of what the situation is. So you know a little bit about this already. The audit is for 2017-18 and 2018-19. And basically what it boils down to, and what our audit consultant has told us, is that we have the formula that was used, the wrong formula was used, and basically every Pell Grant, every grant that was done during those years was done wrong. What it boils down to. At the time, not just that time, but even prior to that, for whatever reason, the financial aid started the second 6 weeks of summer. And the second 6 week, and instead of the beginning of the fall semester. And by this financial aid starting at that time, they were supposed to use Formula 4, I believe, and they used Formula 1. So everyone was done wrong. Again, we realized that a year or two later, I guess it was 19 or 20, and we corrected it. All that's been corrected, as Kevin said. But still, we're going to have to pay the price and the possibility of the fact that these were done wrong during those years. Now, no one knows exactly where we are with all that, but it could be up to $4 million is what the possibility of the miscalculation could be. Now, in terms of negotiating with the DOE and working with the DOE, that's something that will have to be worked out. Once we submit that report back to them, they will probably take 9 months to a year to respond back to us. And according to our consultant, this could be a 2-year process, even a 3-year process, possibly, when you're talking about negotiations and all sorts of things. It's kind of like dealing with the IRS, I guess. You negotiate. So I feel comfortable with where we are right now in terms of what we're doing. We're doing it right. We're doing what we're supposed to do. I also feel comfortable with the fact that we corrected the issue. We corrected the issue as soon as we found out about it. Back in 2018, I guess it was January of 2018. So we're doing the right thing. We're going through doing what we're supposed to do. But I did want to update you, let you know where we are, and let you know there's a lot of uncertainty with it. We do not know, but we do know that it could be a significant amount. We do know that it is a significant amount of miscalculations that was done during that time frame. So again, I'm not the expert on it. These two guys over here, they help me, but I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Well, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Is there any penalties or interest accruing on any of this?
We do not know. We do not know.
Aren't they obligated to tell us?
They will be at some point in time. Yeah, there will be at some point in time. Our consultant has been, again, we're depending upon our consultant to really, she has already done multiple colleges that have had the same issue, even in Texas. That's one of the reasons why we got her, because she's very experienced. She also has dealt with the Dallas office a lot. So we feel very comfortable that she's going to guide us through this. What would you say, Philip and David, to answer his questions? It's just unknown?
It's unknown at this point.
Yeah.
We've talked to Dr. Price a number of times about this already. She has seen cases where they immediately put the fines and the penalties and interest onto the bill and then would allow them to negotiate that bill later on. So chances are we will see that bill come through with those numbers added, but we could be able to negotiate that down or off the bill completely. That seems to be what most of the schools have been able to do.
Thank you. According to her as well, that's a good point. Usually they would allow and do allow multiple year negotiation for multiple year payback, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year payback. So if whatever it comes out to, there will be an opportunity to do that over a period of time.
And until we get the response, we really don't know what they'll ask. Really, that could be a while. But I think that there's a chance to push back on things.
And Mr. Cash had mentioned that, we had 13 write-ups during this particular time frame. We've already answered 10 of those with their office already. What our consultant is helping us do at this point is answer the last 3. And so we're moving through those last 3 right now. And she when we originally started talking about this, we were talking about hundreds, if not 1,000 plus man hours of work. Because she's so experienced, she can do that same amount of work with some technology that she put together herself. And boom, it's done in about, I wouldn't even say 1/10 of the time that we thought it would take. So it's been very good working with her.
She was just here a weekend, wasn't she?
She was here for 1 weekend,
She
but
didn't put too many hours in on it.
that's exactly right.
Well, that was only one item.
That, they worked on the Title IV disbursements at 1 weekend. And they've got 2 other issues to work on. And I know that yesterday we sent her 1 of 2 files needed to work on the 3rd issue. And I think we're sending that 2nd file set tomorrow. So she should have that complete set hopefully by this weekend and be able to start working on that too.
Again, if we don't get this done in February, we believe that we can get, they've already told us that we could get another extension. It took them a year to get the information to us. So once we get the information back to them, we are anticipating it's going to be another year before they even respond to it. And so
We
it's
have to
unfortunate.
respond to all the findings, but these 3 that Phelps mentioned, those are the ones that we hadn't already quote answered through the Gulf Morgan audit. All that goes to the DOE as well. So they've already seen our action plans on the others, and even a couple of them, I think they said no further action for it.
Have they responded in any way to those others?
No,
Those were,
Is that because they're waiting for an answer inclusive of all their findings? Because
Yeah.
normally regulators don't take piecemeal responses.
I
You
can't get
should
this
say
why they
1
haven't.
through 10, you got until 10 next month to respond all.
But the other 10 were much smaller issues than these last year. So I think they probably did what they normally do with the DOE is they looked at them and said, oh yeah, that's fine. And they don't respond at all sometimes.
But bottom line is, we don't know what they've accepted as adequate, cleared, not okay on any of them at this point in time.
But once we have finished this 3rd piece that we're working on, Dr. Price is going to go back and reevaluate all of the pieces we put in before the other 10.
So
So we're not going to try to change them because I think that would look bad, but
in reality, we haven't responded to them at this point, so we really are. We told them we're working on it, we're going to, we may need some more time. But until we have a complete response, we've not responded to them, so they're waiting on us right now.
That's right.
That'd be really-
for their audit. We responded to the financial audit,
we
but
responded to
not to
different
their
ways.
specific.
Yeah, we took 2 ways of responding.
Yeah,
And
I'm
we
just trying to
responded the first
keep
way.
it in perspective. For the board, just as kind of a reminder, I guess, and Jerry may have touched on it, but the committee, under pressure of time, we all supported the notion of getting this consultant on board. She was available. She has other commitments, that kind of thing. The board had authorized back in the fall an expenditure that was something above what this amount was. It's $45,000 or about $47,000, a lot of money. But it was below what the board had gave the audit committee or budget committee, whatever we actually are, discretionary authority to negotiate that if it came to it. I just wanted to refresh that and not have you thinking, well, how did we authorize anything? We don't have any authority to do that, but you did give us that authority, and Jerry was trying to get keep the ball moving. So he got us together and we said, yes, it sounds like something that we're compelled to do, and the unique circumstances surrounding this consultant were favorable for, getting on it, moving on it. Second thing, David, the dollar amount, we talked about this once before, and I know we don't know until they hand us something that has penalties, et cetera. But I distinctly remember that we surmised or speculated that it could be as much as $8 million. Is that in any way possible?
We don't know.
Well, the first two phases, and we talked about this in many meetings. The phase one, they'd estimated 1.5 million. And this is after they've done the work. We're not just making this up. The second phase, and some of these overlap. So if you found someone, for example, that didn't qualify, they come out of the second number because you've already given back. The second was a 2,175,000, 3.7 million. So the third phase, the return to Title IV, is what they're working on now. That's the only unknown, I think, right, Philip?
Well, that's one of the unknowns. The other unknown you said, but you can kind of went past it pretty quick. If we could have the same student in all three of these issues. And we could be right now looking at owing that money back in each case in full. And so the numbers should go down some, because that in that case, we wouldn't pay back 3 times for the same student. But until we get all three of these done and compare the list and pre-calculate, we won't know for sure. That should drop the overall.
So is there any possibility it could be higher than that for other than penalties and interest? And I guess you guys have access somewhere to how they calculate their thing, and that's probably that question. If you don't have it, I'd ask for it. What's the score on that?
I don't think at this point we are far enough along to be able to give you the final number, even to give you an estimate at this point.
Well,
too many things up
What
in
I'm
the air.
trying to, push for is an estimate. I mean, I know it's not finalized until all that work's completed, but I'm trying to get something in our minds that, this could be best case. I think what you described said this is given, that's down and done. That number is there. We already see it. But can that number grow? And I understand that we don't know what the P&I part could be, but are you speculating on that, or could this number go in your mind? Under what circumstances could it go?
Well, we'll have to check on the penalty of interest, and that's a good point, because we're talking about a few years back. And I've been trying to ascertain, well, did they ever make you not pay 100%? That's a question in my mind.
And there are some cases where that has happened.
And so the reason the return to Title IV, a lot of these other things, the first two, well, at least the formula deal, that's everybody. Well, the return to Title IV is going to be the ones that failed or whatever. Right, Philip?
Well, return to Title IV is someone who didn't complete the appropriate number of days well enough to move forward. And there's a complicated formula with that one too, but it's a much smaller,
subset,
or it should be a much smaller.
as opposed to you awarded the whole thing using the wrong formula for everybody. It's not going to be there.
I can give you an example of what we're talking about. When they ask us to look at the verifications, and if you don't know what verifications are, the Department of Education will push back a certain number of applicants for financial aid every single year, and they'll say, we want you to verify this. Either we think something's up with this, or we think something didn't go right, or we're just randomly pulling them out of a hat and we want you to verify them. We had a 74% accuracy rate on that, and that's why it cost us as much as it did. Some of them we just probably didn't verify at all, and so we're going to have to pay back all of that. This third category will be much smaller than that. I have to, I don't know the next final numbers, but I have to believe it'll be much smaller because it doesn't entertain as many students as that second category does.
Well, help us all you can. I mean, I know you don't know the number. We accept that give explanation, but we're gonna have to begin discussing and preparing for how we're gonna meet it. So somewhere along the way, I heard, and again, not saying, I'm not trying to pin you to that anyway, it wasn't then. We're trying to get that idea. I mean, how bad could it be? And I heard 8 billion.
I think we'll have a much better answer next week.
And we hear, half that. But so Dr. Bill, now to put you more squarely in the crosshair, what's your number? Do you think realistically? Because you have a feel for the first phase should be serious damaging, et cetera. So what would you think it would be?
Again, I may be very, very wrong. I don't know. And again, we'll have a much better chance of having a more accurate number next week. Once she's run the numbers on the second set of data we see. But I don't think it will be the $8 million. I just don't imagine it's going to be that, because if we look at the second, if you look at the first two, which are larger amounts of people, it barely reaches that 3.5 million reporting. So we would have to have this third category be more than the other two categories combined to be at 8 million. I don't think it will be that way. We won't know for sure until we get the result of that.
And you expect to have those?
The last time I talked to Dr. Price was early last week, ended last week, and we were going to send her the second set tomorrow. And she said it would take about a week to work through those. And if that's the case, she's working over the weekend.
She's pretty quick.
She's much faster than I ever thought would be possible. I expected this to go on for months, to be honest with you. And she came up with these first two with the help of our staff in 2 weeks.
Could we keep this as an agenda item?
It's been an agenda item on the agenda every month since we started. So it'll stay on there, absolutely. And we'll also consult with the committee, as soon as we,
Yeah,
and
again, I don't think anybody's trying to pin you to something that you can't possibly validate yet, but as you get better information, like we've had up to this point, it'd be nice.
You're my first stop when I get the 7 numbers.
We'll do any action on that.
no, it's just an update.
Yeah. Okay, anyone have any other words about it? If not, all in favor, we'll move number 11. Consider and discuss personnel updates.
And board, this is just, again, your resignations, terminations, retirements, and new hires. And so if you have any questions, Denise here, she can help answer those questions as well as myself. If not, we'd ask for approval.
Like an explanation on the resignation and unresignation. Heard a little noise around that. Why not happen?
Well, we had a person, I guess you're talking about, see which one, building service manager.
So last two people on there that resigned and unresigned.
Well,
And I think
they
were given information. Just want some clarity.
I can tell you about the building service manager. He left at the end of August to take a job with Athens Independent School District. And he worked there for 3 or 4 months and didn't like it and decided he wanted to come back. So we hired him back. And he's a great employee. We're glad to have him back. What's the other one?
We're talking about the last two, the rescinded resignations that are on the screen.
Oh, Rhonda Hamilton.
Yeah.
I
I can speak to those if you want.
Yeah.
So they submitted, all their paperwork to ERS. They have time in TRS through an ISD, but ERS, which is our health insurance medical coverage, does not have ISD years of service.
Okay.
So they were not going to, they could retire through TRS, which was no problem, but they were not medical eligible through ERS. So we let them know that they were not going to be eligible for medical until later. And so they had the option to go ahead and rescind their retirement and continue to work until they were eligible, or they could go ahead and retire and wait to get their medical at a later time. And they opted to stay.
So nobody told them they were eligible.
So with Ms. Hamilton, ERS did tell her at first that she was.
Okay.
And then they came back and said that they had made an error and that she didn't know that she didn't.
And that was ERS, it wasn't,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay, so we would ask for a motion to approve the personnel.
All right, motion to approve personnel. Mike makes that motion. Terry seconds that motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign, motion carries. All right, this time we need to go into convene to an executive session to deliberate the employment of a potential public employee, the president, and B, to discuss real property.
Need a motion.
Okay, I hear a motion. Jerry makes that motion. Steve seconds that motion that we go into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, we ready?
Yeah, you're in a motion.
Okay, I need someone to make a motion to approve Dr. Jason Morrison as the sole finalist for the Trinity Valley Community College president.
Mr. Chairman, I will offer that motion.
Okay, David makes that motion. I hear a second. Dr. Terry seconds the motion. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Now we just need a motion to adjourn.
Oh.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, Dr. Charlie makes the motion, we adjourn. I hear a second. Rondé seconds it. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good night, you all.